you again for bringing your dishes out. And be sure and come out and visit us at Prairie Pines this winter. We've had a lot of people come out, and we had that 4 inches of snow over those 2 days. We had a couple people come and cross-country ski, and then a lot of people just wanted to come out and walk around. So it's a nice, peaceful place. And we're officially only open to the public on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday and Saturday, 9 to 5, and Sunday, 1 to 5. But if I'm out there, call. And if I'm out there and I'm going to be around that day and not have to go to leave to a meeting, you're free as members to come out and walk around and see the property. There have been a lot of white-tailed deer lately running around. What's that? Right now we're pretty good. We were talking about maybe doing a little bit of cutting up some wood. We had this windstorm the other night. We had some new trees fall. So we're talking about cutting up some trees. We still wanted to do a seed collection. We'll have to talk to Gerald and see if there's some things over there that we can still come get, but we got to wait for the snow maybe to hold off and see if we can get over there to Gerald's Prairie once and get a pick. So that's over by Schramm Aquarium. So we might have a pick, so we might get the word out for people to help come and do some seed collection. We kind of got behind this year, kind of like the prairie hay. We didn't get it mowed until really late. And they still haven't got the bales off, but it would rain every about 2 or 3 days, and he couldn't get in. It was too wet, and he wanted it to dry naturally. So anyway, we finally did get that baled, and now he's got to come pick the bales up. So it produced 60 bales of hay out there. So if you're kind of wondering, we weren't able to get everything because he had a very large swather. I mean, a great big 20-foot or 18-foot head, so he couldn't get in between the trees and into some of the fenced areas. And I checked around, and nobody has little equipment anymore. Nobody has those 9, 10, 12-footers anymore, swathers or cutters. So next year I'm hoping we can find somebody that will come out and get some of those areas that we missed this year. But we also did leave some stretches so that people can see on the native prairie as well as the reseeded prairie, so you can see what tallgrass prairie looks like in the winter. We didn't want to take it all out, but there's plenty in the hazelnut planting within the big fence, so you can see lots of standing hay there, prairie, because it didn't get cut at all. Lots of birds. I'll talk about that here in a little bit, but we still got about 8 minutes. But again, thanks for coming out tonight, and we can get your things afterwards, and if people want to stay around and enjoy another cookie that's out there, or some meat or something like that, there's still some sausage, some salami, and things like that, some cheese, so we can go out and enjoy that when we get finished tonight. And I'm sure Jason will stay around for a few minutes afterwards and entertain some questions, but we'll take questions at the end. Lonnie, I wanted to go out and see the nuts on them this year, and I went out there one week and just saw little tiny things, and 2 weeks later went out and they're all gone. So the wildlife love them. So squirrels, yeah, we have lots of squirrels out there, and I think someone said the blue jays are really efficient at plucking those hazelnuts, but I couldn't find a hazelnut on all those trees. They're not that big. I always thought hazelnuts would grow into a big tree, but they're more of a shrub. And these are 4 years old, and they're only 6 foot tall, the biggest ones. A lot of them are still 3 and 4 foot. But the university is going to continue to do the research on them. If they discontinue the research, they talked about having to cut them down because they're a research variety, and that was part of their agreement with the other 4 universities. If they discontinued research, they would need to destroy the trees, which would be too bad. But anyway, we'll see what happens. And they've still got lots of tree plantings out there that the Forest Service and the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum, now called Plant Nebraska, Justin Evertson and Bob Hendrickson, who a lot of you know, they maintain those trees out there, and they're having a walk coming up here. Look in the Babbling Brook. I think it's next week, maybe in this weekend. They've got a solstice walk out there, and they're going to have a master naturalist. But I know that Bob and Justin do tree walks all the time, and they take people out so you can see what different varieties of trees look like. That was kind of what that planning was to do, was to let people see what a red oak looked like, or a pin oak, or a swamp oak, or a spruce. So there's a lot of varieties of trees over there in that northwest corner of the property that a lot of people don't get to. And then we have the Arboretum right there close to the Visitor Center. And at one time it had 150 different species. We figured we got about 125 now, but we've lost several. And I know that Sue Colas is going to try to replace some of those and get back to a higher number. So that's one of the things we'll be working on, is trying to replace some of those in the Arboretum. What's that, Lana? Yeah, I think there were some people that helped Walt when he put the original Arboretum in. Walt almost hand-planted almost all those trees. And we've got pictures of that area south of the house, and that was a field, and now it's a forest. I mean, basically Walt brought all those trees in there by himself, and he had the tree farm there for a lot of years. So a lot of those trees you see out there are trees that were a little deformed or didn't get picked. They were the Charlie Brown tree, and then they end up growing. Now they're a 40-foot. There's white pine and a few spruce and some ponderosa and all kinds of things in there. But it's kind of funny how some of those trees are still there. And a lot of people remember coming out there as kids and going out with Walt and picking a Christmas tree out. So we still have about 5 minutes. We want to wait until we get people at home online since we advertise it to start at 7. So we'll just take a dramatic pause for a minute. I've only seen one owl. I hear them at night when I come out. I come out sometimes I work past dark. I come out, I can hear them out there, but I've only seen one. And
what kind?
it was a screech owl, the one that I saw. But I think we have barred owls. I hear barred owls at night out there. I haven't heard or seen a barn owl. Betsy used to release barn owls out there when she had the Rapid Recovery Center actually out at Prairie Pines. So I would have thought some of them would have hung around. But I saw a bald eagle when I went to get the mail the other day. Flew over the top of me. They were down on Stevens Creek. I've seen them several times, and there was a deer in the ditch for a couple weeks, and there were 2 of them that were feeding on it quite a bit. I don't know if they're the same ones from Holmes Lake that nested there by the Talent Plus building, or someone said there's a nest on Stevens Creek out there pretty close to Adams. And there is a big structure. I could see it, now that the leaves are down, I can see it down the creek to the north of Adams. So I'm not sure where that bald eagle that I spotted was.
Well, there was an eagle's nest on Salt Creek north of
The landfill, yeah. Yeah, for years there was one out there that people talked about. Yep.
There's an active one, I'm hoping it's still active this coming year, at, is it Southwest 48th, where the correctional center is there off of West O? When you go up over the bridge, there's a creek there. I don't know what creek that is. Is that Haynes Branch coming into town? No, I don't know what that is. But there's a nest there. They've had young last year. They were there the year before, but I don't think had young. So if you're in that area, watch for them.
At Holmes Lake had young this year. Jason, do you know? They had a nest, but they were on the golf course a lot. Did they have 2? Okay. I kind of lost track of them this spring after they came back and they were around. The golfers were always talking about them. I'm not a golfer, so I wasn't out there seeing them. It's one of the reasons, huh? Well, we got a couple more minutes. Does anyone else have a comment to make? We'll have our bird sightings when we get later on. Lots of robins. I had 8 in my bird bath the other day. They were fighting to get in. We've got the heated bird bath out now, and so they're loving it.
Well, people need to put water out, no matter if you don't feed the birds.
Yeah.
They need water.
I saw chickadees the other day eating snow. They were trying to get some moisture out there. They were on the front side of the house, and the bird bath that's heated is on the back side of the house, but they were out there eating snow. I watched them for a while.
I saw a squirrel today carrying a chunk of ice and carried it up on top of a fence and then sat there and licked away at it for a while. That was on top of the fence. Somehow owls were there.
Yes.
Might announce about Bruce.
Yeah, I will during my comments, so people online can hear about it too.
Hey, Mark, do the rabbits girdle those hazelnut bushes?
They don't have them wrapped out there. I'm sure they've lost a few, but evidently it must not be a huge problem because we have a lot of rabbits out there and they've never put protectors on. I know that Justin has some protectors on some of his other trees. He said that there are mice and other things that will chew on them. So I've seen a couple species of trees that he puts a collar on. Some of them are plastic and some of them are kind of like a thick cardboard that he puts on them. But the hazelnuts don't have any protectors on them. Okay, I've got 6:59. Where's Linda's? There's Linda back there. Are we ready to go live?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody here in the room and back in their living rooms at home. And folks at home, you missed a big, nice meal tonight. So again, my name is Mark Broman. I'm the director of Wachiska Audubon. Wachiska is an independent chapter of the National Audubon with a geographical area spanning 17 counties in southeast Nebraska. And you can follow us on our website or Facebook. I know we've had a lot of things on Facebook lately. I know Wendy's done a lot of work and tried to advertise some things and take some pictures, and there have been a lot of interest in some of the pictures that she's posted on there out at Prairie Pines. We get a lot of comments on some of those. I've got a couple announcements tonight. Of course, I want to thank everybody for bringing the good meal tonight, and those of you at home, it was really good, so come next year. Next thing I want to mention is we lost a long-time Wachiska member and a very strong conservationist. Bruce Kennedy passed away last week. Bruce and Marge were kind of very active in Wachiska, Friends of the Niobrara, Nebraska Wildlife Federation. They were on the boards and very active. I know with Wachiska, that was my first contact, was back on the legislative subcommittee. For years, I would attend the legislative subcommittees. I couldn't get too active because I was working for Game and Parks at the time, and then later for the Environmental Trust. But Bruce and Marge really were the stalwarts of that committee. So keep their family in your prayers. The funeral and the services are going to be on the 19th. They haven't said everything for sure, but it sounds like a funeral probably Friday night in Seward, and then they're not sure on Saturday where they're going to have some sort of a celebration, but watch things for that. Congratulations to Chris for winning the Michael Forsberg drawing. For those of you at home, we had a raffle tonight, and so Chris was the lucky winner of the raffle. I'm going to ask any of our Wachiska board members to please stand. I know we've got several people. I know Chris is here, and Ross, and Doug Campbell. Teresa had to leave early. Roxanne's up here, so go ahead and raise your hand, board members. Tim is a board member, and we got Dakota. So thank you for serving. We've got 3 new board members that were just put on the board that won't start serving until January 1. So Senator Al Davis, who used to be from the Hyannis area. Al Davis is a former state senator and has moved to Lincoln. Alex Knight. Alex would have been here tonight, but TNC has some function in Omaha tonight that they were going to. And then Nancy Baer is also a new board member. So we want to welcome them aboard. I'm going to take a few minutes now and see if there's any unusual bird sightings. We've had a lot of feathered friends out at at Prairie Pines, really hitting the bird bath and the feeders and the suet, especially the suet. I'm going through a suet cake about every 6 days. We got lots of woodpeckers especially, and the juncos are also working on it, and the chickadees. I went out to get the mail the other day, and I mentioned earlier that I had a bald eagle fly over me. Well, another day I went out there, and there were 16 pheasants, and almost all of them were roosters. They were right across the road in the cornfield. I haven't seen 16 pheasants in Nebraska since I was a kid, I don't think. But there were 16 of them out on 112th and Adams Street. I think they know that that's City of Lincoln property and nobody can hunt over there. But they went after another, just started taking off and flying when I got to the end of the driveway. So it was kind of interesting. But they must have been out there just foraging that cornfield. It snowed, and so they were out there probably trying to find a little bit of corn in the snow. But nowadays, the machinery is pretty effective, and it's not like the old days where they had a lot to forage. So what else have anyone seen? What do you have at your bird feeders or your bird baths? You got anything unusual? We did have a tufted titmouse, I guess. That was something a little more unusual, but otherwise it's kind of the common cardinals, blue jays, chickadees, juncos, and several species of woodpeckers. We have anything anybody has seen? Linda, did you have anything at your house? Have you had nothing unusual?
Nothing unusual, but
Okay. Harry, you had your hand up?
We had, not native, but at least 7 Eurasian doves that keep hanging around.
Okay, you got Eurasian doves. We had 3 mourning doves out the other day at the bird bath. It surprised me. I hadn't seen them for a couple months, but there were 3 of them came in.
3 yellow-bellied flickers. eating up
3
the
flickers on the suet.
uh,
They're loving suet.
Tons of sparrows and
Okay.
goldfinch. Today I saw a goldfinch.
Okay, I haven't had any goldfinches out at Prairie Pines yet, but lots of
And-
chickadees and
then some
juncos.
house finches too.
Okay. Okie doke. What else? Somebody else see anything on a field trip around Lincoln or in your backyard? Yes, Ross.
where's Ross?
Bluebird on Ross's front porch. There you go. And I suppose everybody read the story about the Casas hummingbird that got transported back to Arizona. Everybody was really worried about it. They didn't know what was going to happen. It was a little immature male, they think, and they tried to capture it to take it up to the Desert Dome in Omaha, and that didn't work out. But then somebody from Arizona evidently knew the trick and was able to capture it and take it back down there. So it's down in Arizona now. Yes.
This evening, we saw about 12 roosters fly from the neighbor's cornfield into our.
Okay. So those roosters are bunching up this time of year, evidently.
And my wife's got some bird feeders out and corn and sunflower seeds on the ground, and we get up to 20 bobwhite quail in there.
Oh, nice. Okay. We've got a few bobwhite, but they never come up to the feeders around the house at Prairie Pines. But we've got little bunches I run into all the time, and same thing with turkeys. But the turkeys every once in a while will come by the house, but they haven't gotten used to the bird feeders. I would have thought they'd come up and forage underneath like you're saying the bobwhites were doing. Okay. Anybody have anything else? Well, with that, I'll remind you that tonight's presentation and past presentations are available on YouTube. So if you watch tonight's and you want to tell somebody, oh, that Jason, he's great, you got to see it, you can tell them to go on YouTube and look him up. So tonight, it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Jason, the bird nerd, Sansavar. And Jason is the Senior Education Manager at Spring Creek Prairie Audubon. He started with Audubon in 2013 after a 10-year career with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. He was at Mitchell Lake Audubon Center, and then in 2015 came to Spring Creek. He hails from South Dakota, and early in his career, and he might tell you about it later, he spent over 10 years in the music and theater industry, including performing an off-Broadway musical of Footloose. So he might even do a dance for you if you ask him nice. But most of us know him as the educator and the bird expert, and especially in being able to identify birds by ear and then also making lots of bird noises, which we hope that he'll do tonight. So tonight, Jason's going to tell us about winter birding and the importance of community science. And I'm sure he's going to tell us about the importance of the annual bird count coming up, and we'll tell you more about that. And Jason will take questions afterwards. So with that, please give a warm welcome to Jason.
Thank you, Mark. Oh, thank you guys so much. I didn't get a chance to throw my bird sightings in there from Spring Creek. You guys are going to be the first to hear this. This is super exciting. We've had the usuals out there. Something cool about working out of the tall grass prairie, if you haven't been out there, is we get a lot of migrants this time of year, right? Fall into early winter, moving over. So we've had flocks of horned larks going over. A few have stopped in the parking lot, looking along the edges of the gravel roads for horned larks is great this time of year. We've had Lapland longspurs going over. Most of the time we just hear them, but a few have stopped on the paths on the ridge. And we're not going to be able to tell you exactly where these were on property because they're a little bit of a species of concern, so we don't want them bothered. But super exciting. We were excited. We didn't even know they were there. We have at least 3 long-eared owls roosting out there somewhere, which was super exciting. We thought it was a short ear, the first one we saw. We looked at the photo and it's not. We sent it to Joel Jorgensen and he confirmed that it was not, which was great, just in case we were wrong. But there are some long-eared owls out there, which is really, really great that there's enough habitat for them. If you know anything about them, they're kind of sneaky, very hard to find, and they kind of don't like people. They like to stay hidden. So we're going to hopefully that they do that.
They don't eat people, do they?
No, they don't eat us. No, not that I know of.
Do they eat birds or rodents mostly?
Mostly rodents is my understanding, yeah. They're really cool. Look like a smaller, they're closely related to short-eared owls. They're both in the Asio genus, but they look very similar, but they're a little more gray, and then they have longer tufts, hence the long-eared. They're not really ears, right? They're just feathers. But really cool sighting to have out there. So if you get out for a walk this fall out there, maybe they'll be out. So who knows? Last thing I want to say real quick before we get started, and I've got just a quick, hopefully fun presentation for you tonight, is I want to say a big thank you from all of us at Audubon, especially Spring Creek Prairie, to Wachiska Audubon tonight because of all of the great things that you do. We are big partners and we love working with you on many projects through the years, and specifically like Tour the Wild Side every summer, right? Learning more about native plants and getting the importance to people about planting native plants in their landscape, as well as just all of the work that you do on the legislative things, some of the stuff that sometimes Audubon as a national organization isn't quite as nimble to do. We know how much support you give for that. So thank you guys for all that you do all through the year. And I hope we have more projects coming up this year. So, all right, you guys ready for a little winter birding and some fun stuff about some of our favorite winter birds? All right, let's get to it. Let's start with that guy. Who knows this one? Yeah, right? White-breasted nuthatch. Anybody seen them at their feeders already? I bet. Yeah, well, look at the hands go up. One of my favorites. They're really talkative. You ever tried to talk to one? There's one at Spring Creek that it literally, if I haven't put the birdseed out by about 8, it's meep, 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 just starts going nuts up there. It's like, thinks I'm late, so I got to get that seed out there. He's great. All right. Oh, and of course, I tested this, and now it's not working. Let's try. Oh, I got to point it that way. That's why. No? Let's try again.
Oh, shoot. Nancy's gonna fix you up.
Oh, Linda's going to check it. We had a request, Linda. Is there possible to put the front lights
On the top?
dimmer?
Sure.
I'll hold a sec.
Has he got a clicker going yet? Did your clicker go?
Clicker's working. I'm waiting for the lights.
Is it true the nuthatch is the only bird in Nebraska that can go head first down?
Don't jump ahead.
I was gonna say, spoiler! Jeez. Somebody ring
All right, so since we're learning about winter birding, first question is when do you believe most people are watching birds? When is the most popular time to watch birds? Should be pretty easy.
June?
Yeah, spring and summer, right? That's probably the most, and there's several reasons for that. We've got amazing migrating birds moving in, especially in this part of the country. We've got beautiful Baltimore Orioles coming. We've got our beautiful meadowlarks starting to sing, eastern and western in the state, especially right here in this area. We're super lucky to have both. Indigo bunting right in the middle coming in. Really, really cool. And it's also when, if we're going to see hummingbirds and you have feeders out, it's the best time to see them. They kind of disappear this summer. We do have breeding records, but it's not super numerous. I think they're actually more lately than there used to be, which is exciting. And it's just the best time, right? There's the most amount of diversity of birds moving through in spring and early summer. Some will stay, some will keep moving all the way up to the tundra, some of our birds do. So it's usually the most best time. So then why winter? Why is that guy up there talking about winter birding? Because they're way easier to see, right? When the leaves leave, that bird is right out there. And does anybody know, is that cardinal, I hear this a lot, that cardinal looks so bright. Is he actually brighter? Anybody know?
In the winter, they're brighter, red?
Well, that's what I'm asking. What do you think? I've heard both. They actually are. So in late winter, they have already molted. When their new feathers are in, they have a gray tip, right? Gray and black feathers tend to be stronger. The white feathers get roughed up quicker. They kind of fall off, or not fall off, the edges fray quicker. They're not as strong as the darker colors. So as the winter goes, those slight gray tips on the new feathers fade off, and he actually is brighter. And then on top of that, if there's snow, the contrast is just so strong, those cardinals seem to just glow, right? But it's way easier than trying to find that vireo up in all those leaves, right? I love summer birding. Yes, there's lots of things around, but there's also a lot of bugs. If you don't like the bugs biting you while you're trying to, stand still and look at this bird. And when that vireo looks just like a leaf in there, it's really hard to see, right? So I really enjoy sometimes winter birding. It's a great way to see them. Also, they congregate, right? In the winter, especially if there are storms, either right before or right during when they really need to feed, right? If it's harder to get out to some food, you might get a whole bunch of birds at your feeder or in one spot all together. So it's really fun to see groups all together. Anybody want to take a hazard if you start top to down on this feeder of who's in there? Some are easier than others. Yeah, so right up here, let's see, this is a tiny dot, so I'm not sure if you can see it, but right up here we got, obviously, Mr. Cardinal, right? So he's up there. Let's put him on the list. Right? Then you've got all of these, and I'll give you a hint. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one are all the same. There you go, white-throated sparrow. Nice. All right, see if I got that next. All right. Then you've got, yeah, nice little dark-eyed junco right there. Excellent. Yeah, oh man, you guys are good. I should have made this harder. You got the house finch right here. This is going to be the tricky one. We will not see this here, and if we do, please call me. That, anybody take a guess? Anybody know who that is? I heard somebody say the type. There you go. Ding, 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 ding. Give that man a prize in the back. That is a pine warbler. Right here.
The yellow?
This tiny little one right here at the bottom.
Yellow, green, yellow?
Yep, that is a pine warbler. I believe there was a rare one. We don't see them in Nebraska that often, but in Wayne earlier this year, like kind of all summer through the fall, people were running up there to see it. Really cool. But this is a really fun thing about winter birding, is watch your feeders. sometimes where things show up, especially either during or right after a storm, because they got stuck here or they needed to get somewhere to get food fast and then keep moving, right? It's a really fun thing about winter birding. All right, next thing is sometimes even those secretive birds, like you mentioned, you had those bobwhite at your feeder. That picture of the beautiful bobwhite pair, that's right at Spring Creek Prairie's feeder. Years that we get lots of snow or right after a storm and it's hard to get to food, they'll come pick up all the leavovers that the blue jays and everybody else have kind of thrown out of the top. Or if you've got a ground feeder, or if you're like me and you just throw it on the ground for everybody to have, you can get some fun ones there. Who's on the right? Or I guess it's your left. Who's that? Anybody know who this is? Yeah, brown creeper, one of my favorite birds. We're going to talk more about this one in just a bit. But look at this. Anybody ever seen that? I picked this picture because I don't think I've ever seen their feet. Look at those amazing little toenails to be able to climb like that up the tree like they do. But they will come to suet or feeders in rough weather. They don't very rarely. They're very secretive. But if they really, really are having a tough time finding insects in the trees, they will come to feeders. So it's another fun thing about watching your feeders or the trees in winter. Also, if you've ever heard of finch eruptions, and we're supposed to have a finch eruption year, it's supposed to be a good one this year, it's a great time to watch for birds you don't normally see. Maybe every 7 to 10 years they might show up. That's usually because either bad storms north of us or the resources, the conifer trees, the seeds they're putting out, if everybody's eating them all up or if it wasn't a good season for them and there weren't very many, they've got to come somewhere else. So they move south or east or west. They move somewhere else to try to find more pine seeds, right? Some more conifer seeds. And they'll come down to feeders. So you've got here beautiful pine grosbeak and then a whole bunch of evening grosbeaks. Some others to watch for in the eruption years are, who are these? Anybody know? Beautiful purple finches, right? Notice that strawberry color, not as bright as that red like that house finch was. They are a tiny bit bigger too. And the coloring goes everywhere. They're like strawberry all over their body, not just their head. And then who's this? Yeah, pine siskin. They usually can be around here most winters, but they're more numerous when there's not as many seeds elsewhere. And so we've seen a few flocks, especially on any wild sunflowers. It's a great place to watch with the goldfinches. Check them out. If you see a stripy goldfinch, it's not a goldfinch. Okay. And my favorite, because I find these up in South Dakota when I go visit my family, it's a great thing in winter to check the gravel back roads. Because a bunch of birds that come down, they don't like it if we get a lot of snow cover. They will come to feed right along the edge of the roads. And there's 3 that like to flock together. Sometimes they'll be out in the fields too, but edge of the roads, if they fly off, check them quick because you could have these 3 species. Now, this isn't the clearest of pictures, but this is usually what it looks like. You have to kind of look through them. Anybody know what some of these are? Who's this? Snow buntings. Yeah, snow buntings. Right? Not super common every winter in Nebraska. Up near the border, sometimes you can see them a little more often than down here in Lincoln, but they are seen once in a while. More common, and we have them all year, we just don't see them all year, is horned larks, right? None of these in the picture have their quote-unquote horns up, their little feather tufts. They're all down, but beautiful little birds. Great way to tell them when they fly by is they've actually got black outer tail feathers. So when they fly away from you, most birds have either a solid tail color or they have white outer tail colors, like the junco, right? If you've seen juncos fly away from you, they got that bright white when they fly away from you. These little horned larks have black, so it's a good way to tell them. And then the trickiest one of all, if you see either of those, horned larks or snow buntings, look closer, because these little guys might be hiding in there. But you know who that is? They are, Linda. Well done. These are Lapland longspurs. Really, really cool little birds named for a super long back toe, right? They've got a long toenail on there for running on the ground. But only in the winter do we see them come all the way down. We have other longspurs way out west in the state that breed in Nebraska. But these ones like the snow, hence the name Lapland, right? Yes,
So
Ann?
are all 3 don't have a distinction between the male and female? They all kind of look the same? Or?
Correct. In the breeding plumage, the Lapland longspur, male and female, look totally different. The other two look very similar all year round. The snow bunting, though, in these pictures in winter, looks very different than they do when they breed way up north in the tundra. They're all black and white up there. Down here, they get all that kind of sandy color around them in the winter plumage. So, good question. Cool. So those are some of my favorite reasons. And of course, everyone's favorite that you sometimes can get in eruption years is snowy owl. They have seen a few up in South Dakota. I haven't seen any sightings in Nebraska yet. Has anybody heard of any?
Well, back in 2013 or 14,
Yeah.
there was an eruption.
They definitely come down here every so often. This winter, I haven't heard of any sighted in Nebraska. There were some in northern Iowa, a bunch in Wisconsin recently, and South Dakota has had a few along the interstate corridor. So keep hoping for storms north of us, right? Bring these guys down. The more I hear from my mom about how terrible the weather is, I pretend, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, Mom. And then I'm like, oh, more birds are coming. Right, that's terrible, sorry. All right, so I want to get a little closer and up to personal with some of these winter birds. Many of these will you know, and I threw in a few others that maybe you don't. And I have some crazy fun facts about them, hopefully things you didn't know before. So let's start with my favorite. Some of you may have heard this story, right? This is a dark-eyed junco. This is the slate-colored subspecies, right? That's the one we're going to have the most often here. This is my spark bird. Does anybody know what a spark bird is? Have you heard of that term, right? There's other terms for it too, but that's that thing that gets you into birding, that gets you to love birds the most, right? Or maybe it's your first favorite memory about a bird. I'm sure there are others, but this is the one that I remember the most. I always remember liking birds and being an outdoor kid. I can't ever remember not being outdoors when I was little. But my grandmother, on my dad's side, was the first person to give me a bird book, a little guide. If you remember the golden guides, they probably had maybe 20 birds in them. They were not very big, about this big. I knew cardinals, I knew blue jays, I knew pheasants, I knew all the waterfowl. My dad took me to the hunting club and had me do the ID class, and I knew all the waterfowl. I didn't know this bird the first winter it showed up at my grandma's feeder. And I found it in the book, and I was so excited to tell my grandma, Grandma, that's a dark-eyed junco. And she was like, it is, that's very good, right? So it's the first bird I remember learning from a field guide, and it's like the rest is history. Like I've been field guiding like ever since and learning more birds. They're super cool. They have so many different subspecies. We tend to see that dark slate-colored one the most, right? That's this one. We can see Oregon juncos once in a while. Tends to be more western, like they're all out on the other side of this country, hence the name. But we have seen them in the state. We actually just went ahead at Spring Creek just the other day. So watch for those, very, very different. White wings are pretty rare. You can find them in the piney woods once in a while or up in the Black Hills of South Dakota. But really cool to watch for them. Very variable little birds. And my favorite fun fact is most people call them snowbirds, right? My mom didn't know it was a dark-eyed junco. She's like, you mean that snowbird? I'm like, yes, Mom, that's a dark-eyed junco. Super cute. Anybody ever heard them sing? We unfortunately don't get to hear them here sing very much because they breed way up in the tundra, right, way north of here, and that's where they're singing the most. But April next year, listen, as they are here and getting ready to leave, they make this beautiful little like telephone, if you remember rotary telephones like I do, right? They make a tiny little, like gorgeous little trill. Bertha, yes?
What's the difference between the slated one and the dark-eyed? They look very, very like alike.
They are. So they're the exact same thing. Great question. So dark-eyed junco is the name for the species. These that are up here are all the same bird. They are just subspecies. They have not been separated. They can still breed with each other. Most likely in the future, they will probably be split. But currently, they are all dark-eyed juncos. Does that make sense?
What's the difference between the slated one though? It looks exactly the same as the first one.
Oh, white wing has a little white on the wing.
They all are the same. The only differences is, so let's see, we'll go through them. Slate color just has the gray, And these are the males, by the way, that you're seeing. The females can look slightly different. They tend to be a little more pale.
I think it's confusing.
All of these, though, are dark-eyed juncos. Every one of these.
They're the same, just repeated.
Yep. Yeah, this is just a repeated ribbon to look cute. So it was probably more confusing. Sorry about that. All right, let's move on to another favorite. There's that brown-eyed creeper again, right? Anybody seen one? They are so hard to find sometimes. And most birds you can hear first, and then it makes you turn and try to look for them. This one is really hard to hear. Makes a tiny little way up there sometimes. I can't even whistle that high. So sometimes people aren't hearing them either. My favorite fun fact about them, though, is they hardly leave the trees. They are here year-round. We see them more in the winter, again, because a lot of the leaves are off and they're having to feed more often. They literally go up a tree trunk, and as soon as they kind of are done feeding on that tree, they'll go to the bottom of the next tree, and then they circle up that tree, and then they go to the next tree, and then they circle up that tree. It's really, really cool. But the point I wanted to tell you is, look at that eyeball. This is something I did not know about this bird until only a few years ago. So most birds that are prey, smaller birds that a bigger bird or another predator could eat, have eyes on the side, and their eyes are made to see a wide space around them, right? And then predators have eyes that look straight forward.
Yep.
These guys have this really cool adaptation where they have almost telescopic crossed eyes because they need to see directly down to the tip of that long beak, and their eyes then sight would actually cross down there so that it's focused right at the end of their beak at tiny bugs that they're picking right off or under that bark. Isn't that crazy? But it's also why they don't leave those trees very much, because they don't see well to the side and they don't want to get picked off by predators. So they want to only be seen like this from behind, where they really blend in and look like the bark, right? Really cool little bird. Really tricky to find, though. So if you see one, stop and watch it as long as you can, because they're few and far between. They're out there. They're just really hard to find. All right, who's seen these? Winter is a great time to see these, especially if you still have any fruiting trees and there was small fruit on them. And even, I say small, and they'll take crab apples. Like how they swallow them, I still don't understand. Cedar waxwings are gorgeous, right? That's cedar waxwings. I didn't put the name up, sorry. Beautiful little masks, and they've got all those beautiful feather colors. They're named for this cool formation, right? That is the thing that looks like little wax drops right here on their wings. It's actually just a feather adaptation. It's pretty cool. Beautiful little birds. Again, they make really high noises. They tend to be in big groups, though. So if you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're in a fruit tree and all of these little birds go shooting out or come flying in, might be them, so watch for them. It's also really fun if there's been a freeze. Has anybody ever seen this? So there's a few birds that do this. If we've had a hard freeze and the berries have started to shrivel and they get really full of sugary honey, right? Almost like they've started to ferment.
Right.
These guys will get a little tipsy, get into brawls up there and start falling out of the tree. It's really hysterical. That makes me happy. I was like, oh, it's not only us humans that do stuff like that, right? It's great. The birds do it too. Something else cool, though, about cedar waxwings is, or maybe not so cool, but I don't know, I found it very interesting. There is a lot of research on this. Do you notice anything different about this tail feather
Yeah, they're rusty red.
than that? Yeah, that's the wrong color. That is orange. This is what it's supposed to be, which is yellow. This is an importance of that native plant stuff I was talking about earlier, right? While we all love getting more native plants, because that is something that happened because of an invasive species. So a couple of the honeysuckles, especially Morrow's honeysuckle, which we have a lot of, unfortunately, here in Nebraska, these cedar waxwings love it, and especially if they can't find other native berries to eat. They eat a bunch of it, and it turns their pigment, that should be yellow, dark orange. That doesn't sound like a huge problem, except for when you're a male and the girl doesn't pick you because you don't have the right colors. And then all of a sudden you don't have breeding, you don't have eggs, and you start having a population decline, which was what was happening out east when they were doing these studies. So It's really important to have those native plants that these birds have evolved with, right, in our habitat, so that that isn't happening. So watch for that. If you see any orange-tailed cedar waxwings, see who's got the bad bushes in the neighborhood. No, I'm just kidding. All right. There's our nuthatches, friend, right? We were talking about those. And what were you going to tell me about them?
Well, I heard someone say they're the only bird in Nebraska that can go down.
Absolutely correct. Yes. They're, as far as I know, the only bird in North America is the nuthatch family groups that can go down head first. They have special feet for that. Now, there are birds like chickadees that can hang upside down, that may stand upside down for a short while, but it is literally one of their feeding techniques where they will literally go head first down a tree more than anybody else. They're really, really cool. We have two species here, right? We have got the white-breasted that we saw at the beginning right here, and then who's this? Red-breasted, right? More often seen in winter around here because they tend to be west of us in the mountains. They like conifers more. They can stay around year-round if someone has a lot of pines in their property, but we tend to see them more in the winter because they kind of disperse, just like those other finches we talked about, getting more resources if they need it. Again, I always hear these guys first because they're very sneaky, and then I kind of try to find them in the tree, coming head first, right? This one will make that fun little roadrunner beep. Meep, meep, meep. This one sounds the same, but think of it as a younger, whinier kid. It's much higher and much more like needs food right now. Meep, 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 meep. It's way up there. Very, very fun. I love them. And does anybody know we have a third type of nuthatch in the state? If you see it in Lincoln, like put it in the newspaper, that'd be a big deal. But way out west, yeah, say it again. Pygmy, yes. That is the pygmy nuthatch. They make a little kind of high doot that I can't do, way up. It's not like a beep like the other two nuthatches. It's a little, kind of like a little beep up there, like a car backing up. Deet, deet, like going back. Really fun birds. All right, who's that? Yeah, northern shrike, great bird to watch for in the winter here. We've got one hunting around Spring Creek Prairie right now, which is fun. And I know I'm both in a church and probably shouldn't say swear, but I'm going to real quick, so I apologize. I find these guys the most badass of birds all the time. They are so cool. So they're not a raptor, but they're just as vicious as one. They don't even have talons, right? But for a small, they're only like robin-sized. They can attack. Look at that. That vole or mouse is almost the size of that whole bird's body. They have that special hooked beak right there to be able to like nip them right in the spine and the back of the neck real quick, and that kills them. And they're just strong enough to carry them to some of their favorite shrubby tree and do this. It's why they used to be called butcher birds. They impale them on thorns. It's kind of gross. I know, we just had dinner. I'm sorry. But really unique, because if you're out on a trail and you see a dead shrew or something hanging from the fence, this bird is around somewhere. Because they actually keep a larder. They will store. They can't swallow that whole thing, but they will stab grasshoppers and small shrews and mice on thorns. They will eat pieces for their meal and then save it. They'll let it cool in the winter and like just be out there. They'll come back and eat more later. Really, really cool birds. Yes, they love our barbed wire fences. They're one of the only birds that loves barbed wire fences. Those and upland sandpipers, they love to sit on the posts of. Most of the other birds don't really love them much because they would rather they not be there, but those two birds like them.
So they don't hunt other birds, though?
They do, but they tend to, it tends to be mostly south of us, snakes, a lot of snakes and lizards. Up here, they'll do frogs, big insects, pretty much anything they can catch. Birds just tend to be a little fast.
Yeah.
But if they can get one, they'll probably get one. Like especially youngsters, they'll grab that for sure. We have a great state for watching owls in the winter, right? We got a bunch, great horns, barred owls, eastern screech owls, and look closer. Yeah, this is not an owl. That is a northern harrier. That bird gets confused as an owl more than anybody, right? Because look at this. So that's the northern harrier. That's the short-eared owl. They do look very similar. And the harrier, because of the way it hunts, does have an owl disc face. Right? It has that shape because it hunts by sound much more than by sight. It will fly low over the grasses and the marshes and then dive down on something not even knowing what it is, which seems scary to me. It's like, what if what's down there is bigger than you are? But that's what they do. And then short-eared owls and long-eareds, obviously, that I just mentioned earlier. Really, really cool. Any questions on owls? Anybody see any lately? I know we mentioned a few earlier. Yeah.
I think I saw one about a week ago.
Nice.
Are they about the size of a horned dove or slightly larger?
Which ones?
The short-eared.
Yeah, they're not very big. A great way to tell is if you see it, the harrier will be flying very much like a hawk, but really low. The short-eareds and the long-eareds, their body is very stumpy, and they have very deep wing beats, which makes their body actually not stay level when they fly. It bounces, almost like a bat flies, like it kind of has a weird flap to it, if you see them, but they're not very large. Otherwise, screecher are smallest. Every time I see one, I'm like, oh my God, he's so dinky. They're even smaller than you think.
Are they all feeding the same times at night, or some of them
Oh.
before dusk?
Great question, Lana. She asked if they are all feeding at different times or at the same time. Rather different. So harrier are going to be during the day. Short-eared and long-eared, kind of whenever they want, tends to be dawn and dusk, but with some light out. So they're the ones you can see the most. The others, mostly at night, right? Great horns, barred, eastern screech, pretty much always nocturnal, right? That's when they're hunting the most. Yeah, Bert.
What's their sound?
We got great horns do woo, 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 right? Barred, woo, 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 right? Eastern screech, right? They're doing that horse whinny. Short-eared and long, like it's a horrible, like scratchy, like I can't even do it. It's a terrible, if someone's being killed out in the field, it might be one of the owls, right? Something like that. And I don't know if harriers make a noise. Does anybody know? I don't think I've ever heard them. I'd have to look that up.
What's
I would
the
assume
cooks-
they can make some noise, but I don't know one.
What's the bird that goes cooks for you?
That's the barred.
How's it sound again?
Ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah, who cooks for you, who cooks for y'all. They also make a lot of other noises, all the owls. They can bill snap. They can do these crazy but that's the main ones. Great horns should be calling now because they're going to be nesting the earliest. All the others will call more coming up February through April. How am I doing on time, Linda? I always get going and am I all right?
Keep enjoying.
Okay. Golden crown kinglet. Another one of my favorite winter birds. Anybody seen these guys around lately? Just coming in. Another one of the birds that breathe way, way, way up. They like coniferous forests, but they're way up in the tundra and the boreal forest in Canada. But now is a great time to see them here. If you rarely out of the conifer trees, but if there's a storm again, this one might come to your feeder. Not for seeds, though. Probably just to suet, to get a little extra fat. Makes tiny little noises, so they're hard to hear, but really, really cute. And I just threw this next picture up because it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. Look at them. They're so... Do you guys know what I mean when I say borb? Does anybody know what a borb is instead of a bird? So first it became burb. That's just like a cute word for bird. Instead of saying bird, you just say burb. And then a fat burb is a borb. So in the winter, when they're all puffed up trying to say warm, it's a borb. But they're such cute little borbs. Obviously, they've been banded, so they're being held by someone and about to be released. But obviously, it's got to be chilly because they're so puffed up. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. That button. Right? Oh, they're so cute. They have been recorded in the winter, and many birds do this. The nuthatches will do this as well. In stormy weather, a lot of them are cavity nesters, or they will go in owl boxes if they're not used, squirrel box, all kinds of things. 40, 50, up to 100 of them to get out of the storm, just all cuddled up, shivering through the air, and then they disperse again. But it's one of their ways. This little bird's natural temperature is 111. That's how it lives in the winter way up north of us, and then comes down here in our winter and thinks it's summer, like it's great, right? And I'm freezing, trying to find one. Really fun. All right, who's next? We got a couple more. Anybody know who that is? Close. Rough. Different part of the body. Legged. Yeah. Rough-legged. Named for this part right here. So most of our other boodio hawks, that's the big soaring hawks, the feathers don't go all the way down to their feet. They kind of stop up at that backward, people call it a backwards knee, but it's actually their ankle, right? But they kind of rough, oh, Jason can't run his thing. Let's back up. There it is.
One of them is the rough-legged on the left.
So this is both rough-legged hawk, right? Really, really cool. Only in the winter, right? So now is the time to see them. We've seen just a couple. As we get more snow, hopefully if we do, watch for more. It's going to be one of our largest birds that hovers. So a great way to tell it from a red-tailed hawk, and if you can't even see colors, if you see a bird out above the field that's really large, but it's hovering, that's going to be this bird. That's how they love to hunt. They also have tiny feet so that they don't lose heat up in the tundra. So they can sit on really small sticks and wires that a red-tail cannot perch on. It's a fun way to like tell them apart. Really cool raptor. All right, everybody's favorite to try to tell apart. It seems so easy if they'd sit like that, right, for you, and they never do. Hairy and downy, right? So you got downy woodpecker here. You've got hairy on this side. I got a couple of tricks. Anybody know why it's called hairy? I didn't know this. I had to look it up. I thought it was because of the fuzzy rictal bristles right here, but it's not. I've been wrong all this time. Anybody know why? I didn't know this. So, and it's hard to see in this picture, but right over here, do you know how both of these birds have big white patches that go right down their back? On this bird, the bottom of it, they are just skinny plume feathers. They are not feathers that have the extra pieces that come off the side like a regular feather. They're just plume like white hairs. And so it got named hairy. Isn't that cool? Everybody learned something new, even me. It was great. The best tricks I can tell you to tell them apart, if you don't see them together, because it seems like it'd be easier by size, but it's not as easy as you think, is if there's something to compare it to. And in the winter, this is easy because they love to come to suet. I always say the downy can fit in the suet cake. The hairy cannot. He's always bigger, right? You've got a he here and a he here. This is two males because you've got the red. The females don't have the red. Really, really fun. They make the same squawking noise too, that loud pew. One is louder than the other, but if you haven't heard them both, it's hard to tell them apart. Size is the best way to tell them apart. Now, this is the crazy thing. Did you guys hear this? This is recent scientific study. I didn't know this. They are not related.
Oh, gosh.
Hardly at all, which is crazy. We've always thought that they were very closely related, and they've only found this out in the past, 5-8 years? It's called, oh, I'm going to get this wrong. No, convergent evolution. Did I get that right? Yeah, I got it. Yes. So because they believe the downy has, that's this one, evolved to have this pattern and there's two theories, but they believe the second one is now more correct than the original one. At first, they thought it was because this bird is very aggressive and was always attacking this bird when it would be feeding and in wooded areas for cavities and things, and that looking like it would cause some of them to get confused and not attack them as much. They now believe that's not the case. They believe it's actually this bird is so aggressive to predators coming after it, right? It's very mean. It has a big beak, and if other predators or other birds are trying to take its territory, it will go after them. It does not shy away from trying to attack. So it benefits this little bird to look just like that and get less attacked by other things too. And so it evolved to look just like it. But they are not closely related. All this time we thought because they look so much alike that they were super closely related and then diverged from that, but it's the opposite. Isn't that cool? All right, we're getting down to this, our last winter bird favorite, and then I've got just a few more left and we're wrapping it up. I threw this one on purpose because this will take us to our community science to end. Anybody know this? This is my favorite winter bird. Harris. Yeah, Harris's sparrow, which I'm going to call something else, and I'll tell you why. So, used to be called the morning finch or the morning sparrow before it got named Harris's. If you haven't heard, It's going to take a long time yet, but many of these birds that have names, honorifics, named after a person, those common names will be changing. So it's a chance that this will go back to being a mourning sparrow. It got named that because of its whiny little call. If you've ever heard them, I always think that they forgot halfway through. And then he just trails off, like he forgot what he was singing. It's so funny. The reason I brought this bird up, and there's not as many around, they kind of come down late fall, and then they move to maybe Kansas or Oklahoma if it's a rough winter. They'll stay all winter if it's not too rough. But they love a lot of our habitat, but we're losing a lot of them. And right now, Audubon Great Plains' Stephen Brenner, who is our avian biologist, works with Joel Jorgensen a lot at Game and Parks. They are studying these and banding them. So there's a fun little backpack that they get to put on. So we have been catching them at Spring Creek with Stephen, and then Rowe Sanctuary, they've been catching some, and then they have a private property in between that they are studying every spring and every fall to learn more about where these birds go because they're disappearing. And part of what they are finding is some of their favorite habitat happens to be, because we've changed the landscape a lot, they liked where they didn't mind corn and ag fields, where there was always still all of the extra weeds and native plants and things along it. But now we are clearing all of that out as well, and their corn is going right to the fence or right to the row, and there's not a lot of that extra sort of what we call the scrub shrub, right? Those kind of like hedgerows or areas where this little bird really likes the edge of, they don't like deep forest, they don't like full prairie, they want that space in between. There's not a lot of that left. So these little guys are having a tough time. So we're studying them, and this is just one of the ways. If you've not heard of MODIS, that is the tagging system that's tracking tons of birds, also monarchs and many other mammals as well. But this is just one screenshot of one of the birds that Stephen tagged, right? Liked to be up in Sioux Falls when it was first caught, headed down to Kansas for the winter. Hopefully we'll see it come back through next spring. We don't have to catch it. The great thing about this, though, is we don't have to bother it anymore. It's got that on, and for over, hopefully up to 3 years, if that battery lasts, we know where it's been if it goes past one of those towers. So we can learn all of these cool places about where they're going. That helps us then when we're planning where are we trying to get better habitat for it. It's really cool. That's what brings me to what you can do. We'll end the night with just a little bit about community science because it's super important. And it is not hard. Sometimes people think, well, I can't help. I don't know all the birds. You don't have to. It's really, really fun. I'm not going to read all of that. You can read that up there. You've probably heard of community science. It's also got many different names. Citizen science, there's lots of others. It's basically there are not enough of us, scientists, doing the research to get everything done. So we just need tons more eyes to send data or to put it in a computer or in a phone that helps us then take that data and figure out what's going on. There's a lot of ones to use. eBird's the most famous for birds. But it's not just birds. You can use iNaturalist. It's a really great one because that's any living thing you can catalog. And there's people on there that will help you figure it out what it is. Even if you don't know, you just put the picture on and go, I don't know what that is. And it'll help you figure it out. Or other people will be, oh, that's this. I know what that is. And then after 3 people have verified it, you got a scientific grade sighting. It's really cool. And Monarch, there's a great one, Monarch Watch and Monarch.org. So you can, anything you love, you can put data in just by knowing what you saw. Okay? Anybody use some of these? I bet you do, right? And what's the longest running one of all time? You guys know, right? Audubon's Christmas bird count, right? We are in our 126th year it's been going on. Lincoln is one of the longest cities, other than way out east. All the eastern cities where everything started for the Christmas bird count have been going for hundreds of years. Lincoln's, I think, in our 85th or 86th year with our Christmas bird count, so that's pretty awesome. That's a lot of years of bird data. That is where things like this come from. I always think it's important to tie it to, like, well, where does all that data go? Right? I counted birds. Where does it go? Anybody seen these graphics that came out back at the end of 2020? Right? Big State of the Birds came out, and it was not a happy picture. We've lost a lot of our birds. We wouldn't know that without hundreds of years of Christmas bird count, Great Backyard Bird Count, and tons of other volunteer-led community science projects. And our grasslands are the worst, right? Our poor meadowlarks, our bobolinks, that's where we're losing the most, mainly because we just don't have the habitat for them anymore. It's not all dire, though. There's lots of fun ways that you can help, and they're coming up. Lincoln's Christmas Bird Count is coming up next Saturday, the 20th. If you don't feel like getting out in the field, and actually we've got most of our field spots covered, watch your feeders. If you want to do that, send me an email out at Spring Creek Prairie, and I'll sign you up, and all you have to do is watch your feeders some of the day, 15 minutes. That's not super long. And then you can report those birds you saw, and it really does help let us know how birds are doing. Okay, some other great ones. This one's going on right now. It started in November and goes through April. I'm doing this in my backyard. Project Feeder Watch. It's literally the same thing, just goes longer. Any 2 days throughout the year, you just watch birds at your feeder and put them in there. It's really simple. And again, there's tools in all of these to help you identify. If you're not sure what you saw, it'll help you figure it out. Great Backyard Bird Count is always President's Day weekend every year in February. We'll do some walks and stuff, lots of fun stuff going on then. And there are so many more these days with smartphones. You can use, what do I got up here? Merlin. Who uses Merlin? Yes, I love to see all those hands. It is such a great tool. It not only can walk you through questions if you saw something and you weren't sure what it was, you can also have it just record a sound and you're not sure what bird that is. And it may not always be right, but it will give you some options. So then if you're looking at it, you're like, oh, it is this one. And if it isn't those, you can like send the recording to someone and they can help you figure it out. It's a really cool tool. iNaturalist is a really, really fun one. This is the kids' version of that. So if you work with kids or grandkids especially, get the kids involved using Seek. It's really fun and it's safe for kids to use. That way it doesn't need their email, right? No one can be contacting them through their phone. It's just a fun way to put in bird sightings or bug sightings or plant sightings. And then that last one, of course, is Audubon's bird app. Really, really great field guide, but you can enter bird sightings right through there. All of those literally connect to the Cornell Lab of Ornithology's database and go into eBird, which all of us need to use so that we can figure out how our birds are doing. So it's really, really easy for all of this to connect. And I think with that fast talking, I know I talk fast, sorry. I think that's it. And there's our fun little tufted titmouse. Thank you, thank you.
Get the microphone so people at home can hear the questions.
We're going to run some microphones around the room, so if you have a question, raise a hand. We'll get a microphone to you. I see one right here in the middle.
Here we come.
How much difference is there in the size of the flickers between the female and the male?
Ooh, great question. Not much, if any. So in most birds, the size from female to male, until you get to raptors and owls, is not super noticeable. So the male and female flicker, it's a different marking that you want to look for, which is, oh gosh, I'm going to forget. Is it the malar line right here, I think? I think so. I think you want to look to see if it has a black line here or none. The female is going to just have an all gray face.
I usually don't have flickers. I live down by Wilderness Park.
Yeah.
But probably the last 2 months, I initially had one really big flicker, and he'd hang out with the Downies, and I thought, wow, you're so big. And then the second one showed up, and it's maybe a third as big. Well, it's probably 2/3 as big. Maybe it's a juvenile. I don't know.
Yeah, Desert Rasta said totally possible. This time of year, right? If it was born late summer, still probably has larger feathers. So in most juvenile birds, right, I have slightly bigger feathers as I learn to fly, and they just look larger. The other thing is this time of year, everyone looks bigger than they did because they're puffed up, right? They're doing that thing to keep themselves warm, and they just look larger than they did back when it was hot. Me too, right, after potluck.
he's not very bright yet. He sits on my deck and looks up at the suet feeder and just looks at it.
Maybe still learning that it's something great to for a resource, right? Watching that other one going, oh, I can eat that? That's cool. It's been a good year for flickers, right? Could be a couple reasons. One, it hasn't been super stormy or cold yet, right? We've had a couple days, but not tons of it. They can still get to the ground, which they like to eat on most. Also might have had to do with just we had lots of ants. We had a really good dry year, which means lots of ants. They like that. That's their favorite food, right? They eat off the ground, and they eat a lot of ants. So we've had lots of flickers all year, and they've stayed. So I hope they stay for next week so we can count them for the Christmas bird count. Very cool. Any other questions?
Imitate a flicker?
Ooh, flicker's tough. They make a really loud squawk. I don't know if I can do that one. It's like a, and then they do the long kind of,
Yeah.
and it just keeps going and going and going. So wait.
Only a woodpecker that does that?
No, so the pileated or pileated, depending on how you say it, does a similar, but it's louder and it quits. It trails off. It goes. Whereas I always feel like the flicker is like me. He's just going to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and it just keeps going and going and going. They're really cool. Yeah.
Oh, I was kind of wondering what your thoughts are on this. You know, that slide showed how many billions of birds were lost since the 70s.
Yep.
Is it possible it could even be worse than that? Because what I'm noticing, these vast areas where it's intensive agriculture, where because of herbicides there's no weeds and it's just a virtual wasteland out there for habitat, I'm wondering if birds now are concentrating more in the cities because there's getting to be more habitat there, more people feeding, and that's where the counts are being taken, and are they factored in these huge areas with virtually nothing out there?
Great question. So my understanding is it's not only the counts, the Christmas bird counts that data comes from. A lot of it also comes from the breeding bird surveys, which are done in all habitats. We do know that we probably are missing birds, but that's figured in, right? That's in the statistics of how they figure the numbers that they're going to put out publicly.
Jason, do you know
Yeah.
the one that was called, I don't know the name of it, but I signed up for it, and it had me drive to some totally remote place in Gage County and just keep driving and stop every mile and just look and record what you saw. So there are surveys that go out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes. So there's a couple. Breeding bird surveys do that. They walk usually a transect. Several of the eagle surveys do that, where they drive and stop many places and record eagles and other bird species. Climate Watch is one that we are doing all across the country, specifically verifying Audubon's climate models of how birds are being affected by the climate changing, because we can't tell if our climate models aren't right. We think this is happening, but we have to test that. So what they've done is they've done years and years of checking those climate models, and they've proven very, very accurate. So my understanding is those are 2019 numbers, the numbers I put up. The 2025 State of the Birds just came out, so they're slightly different, but they show the same trajectory for most things. But there are birds that are going up. So also to your point, we know urban birds, especially birds that like urban and suburban habitats, feeders, cardinals, blue jays, they are at least stable and not declining as fast, or some are going up. The only other ones that have sharp going up are waterfowl, and that's years and years of conservation of wetlands, working with great groups like Ducks Unlimited, right? Getting more than just conservation people involved with the whole like hunting population of trying to keep habitat for them. Grassland birds, shore birds, steepest declines.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that they feel the numbers are pretty correct.
Yeah, what made me ask that question, I remember when I was a kid, you know, when I started pheasant hunting in the 60s and 70s, you know, ahead of your dog, just be swarms of songbirds going through the brush ahead of you, and you do that nowadays and you hardly see anything, you know?
Yeah. No, we are definitely, after years of being the compiler now of the Christmas bird count, more people are seeing the changes more than we did only 20 to 30 years ago. I think we knew some of these numbers and this was happening, but it was harder to see on the landscape. You talk to people now, like you can see it, right? I mean, I've been at Spring Creek almost 12 years now. I can tell you, I will walk out and I might see 3, 5 meadowlarks. When I first got here, that was 20, 25. It's certainly declined. And that's prime habitat, right? So it's you can notice it on, especially on certain types of birds. Others you don't. Like I walk Wilderness Park, chickadees, woodpeckers, cardinals, blue jays. I don't see a huge difference. Yeah.
What is the, I'm sure this is a behavior that all of us know all too well. How do blue jays benefit from being so loud? You know, it seems like for no reason at all, they're just yelling all the time. It's not for predators. I don't see any around. They're just, are they yelling at me? I don't know. Maybe I'm in the house.
I think it works the same on the school ground. I don't know. I see some really loud, boisterous kids, and they do just fine. So part of it is that's their MO. So one thing with jays to know, and this is all the jays that are related to blue jays, they're in the corvid family. Pretty much all of them do this. The crows, the ravens, all of the jays, magpies. They are group family oriented. You rarely see one by itself. If you do, there's others around and you just can't see them. They work in tandem. A pair of blue jays nesting will have auntie and uncle, brother and sister, all helping with the nest. It's a very different system than a cardinal, finch, meadowlarks, etc., where it's a pair, they do everything. So it benefits them to be a mob of bullies, right? They get more food, they chase everybody away. If that owl sees them because I'm really bright, I got 8 people backing me up. I dare ya, right? Like, so that's what it's about. It's literally like gang mentality. Like the more of us there are. They also, though, are very beneficial to many other forest birds because they're one of, like them and chickadees are one of the first alarms. If there is a predator around, whether it's coyote or something on the ground, bobcat, if it's an owl, hawk in the air, they're the first thing making a whole bunch of ruckus, and everybody else knows. Rabbits, squirrels, take off, run. Like everybody knows if that alarm goes off. I mean, birders do it too. We run towards them because there's an owl, like there's something up here. Yeah, one more?
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Quick question. I'm curious and encouraged about you talking about name changing of birds. Can you briefly tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, and I actually just looked up the status of where that's at because it's a little stalled, but it's still coming. So, one, there was a lot of, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. It started even before then. There was a great group of birders and conservationists that started a group called Bird Names for Birds to really like look at especially about 6 to maybe 10 bird species that are named after people that really shouldn't have a bird named after them is the nicest way I can say it, right? They did horrible things. They probably got a bird named after them because they gave money to Audubon himself, right, John James, to make his book. Or they gave money to the scientist or the Philadelphia Museum or whatever, and they got a bird named after them, right? One, that tells you nothing about that bird. What does that tell you? Right? A Harris's sparrow tells me nothing about what it looks like, what it does, how it sings, right? Whereas a mourning sparrow, well, why is it mournful? Why, it's its song. It sounds more like it tells me something. I use the example of red-winged blackbird a lot in Spanish. Does anybody know the Spanish word for red-winged blackbird? It is sargento, like his sergeant epaulets. It's so picturesque, right? I love that name. More birds named like that get more people into them. We always encourage kids when we're at Spring Creek, when they're first seeing a bird, they'll ask me, oh, what's that one? I'm like, what do you think of it? What would you call it? They're going to look at it longer and learn more about it if they have a connection to what it looks like, how it sings, etc. Right? So if they want to call it the flame-shouldered crazy bird, they're going to remember that. Right now, one of the only birds that has recently actually changed the name was the thick-billed longspur. Used to be called McCown's longspur. Let you look up who McCown was. He should have never had a bird named after him. But there are several others. One of the worst right now is Scott's oriole. Probably should never have had a bird named after him. But in looking at those, they try to figure out what's the best way, piecemeal, to change each one. How do you decide what human did things that maybe was just how things were done then, or was they a terrible, like, that's really hard to judge. So what they decided was the best way, if we're going to do it, is all of them. Anything named after a person, we are just going to change the common names. They're not changing the scientific names. So if something is named after Harris and Harrisi is in the scientific name, it will remain, right? For tradition, for banding, there's a lot of scientific databases that would have to go crazy to change those. Common names is a lot easier, plus that's what we all use. There are 6 bird species that were on that list to have their names changed. They are doing 222, where they are doing a different process to get the name changed, to see what works best in doing that. Once they've decided that, then they will start working on all of the other birds named after a person and change them to something else. Many will probably go back to what they had, which was like a Bachman sparrow. For ever and ever and ever before it was named Bachman sparrow was the piney wood sparrow, because it lives in the piney woods. It's right where you're not gonna find it anywhere else. So it may do that. I mean, many of them had names for thousands of years from indigenous people long before all of those names anyway. Some of those are really fun too. If you visit Spring Creek, right as you come in, there's a meadowlark logo, and his name is Monksy, which is the name in Ho-Chunk, the Ho-Chunk language of the Winnebago tribe. Because we had asked their elders if we could use that. We have the emblem, and so he's named. And he's going to be on our wayposts, on our trails in the future, kind of guiding people around. Because that means golden breast, and he's had that name much longer than meadowlark or anything else. So, thank you for that question.
Let's do one more question. We got one more question. Tim, did you have a question? You had your hand up a little bit ago. You got one?
Just a small question.
Well, wait a minute.
Just a minute, we're gonna get you on record. Might be a good one.
How do birds know when it's about to snow or the low pressure's coming?
Oh, my $20,000 question. I have no idea, Tim. I think it's going to be the same, and if anybody knows this and I don't, please answer. But I'm going to use the answer I use with migration. People always ask, well, how do they know? How do they find their way? 1, we don't truly know. 2, there are lots of theories, and it's probably something to do with many of our birds can sense the magnetism of the planet. Thus, they are able to read the magnetic fields, which change when the weather changes, and the barometer and all of that with I don't remember the name of the thing they've got in here. There's a name for the thing, the organ or space or whatever it is, but that senses that. It could be the stars, like there's lots of possibilities, but my guess is it's a combination of all of those, right? They are such amazing little creatures to be able to, I mean, if you think about it, the blackpoll warbler, this big, weighs less than like a pen, a writing pen, literally comes flying down from the boreal forest, hits kind of the edge of the northeast, and then just like, oh, I don't need to fly over land, let's just go over water for thousands and thousands and thousands of miles and get all the way to South America. How is it? And like, how do they, like, what? And they rarely get off course, right? Big storm might blow them off course. A youngster might not go the right way the first time. Pretty amazing. We know they might use, the guess is they're going to use all those tools so that if it's foggy, one of them is going to work and the other might not. But yeah, we don't know for sure, but my guess is it's a combination of some of those things. But you can see it, right? Has anybody else noticed it? I noticed it just the other day before that Thanksgiving weekend snow, right? I'm like, what is going on with all the juncos? Why are they acting? Oh, something's coming. And I looked at my phone. I'm like, well, they don't know yet, but the juncos know, right? Because that's the other thing. Does anybody notice the weather reports? They don't know very often lately.
We got one more quick one over here.
Oh, one more.
One more.
Thanks, Jason, for coming and talking to Wachiska. You know, with seeing the numbers up there that you showed, it can be pretty depressing really quickly. But I want to hear from you what positive lights you've seen in the birding community over the last 10 years in light of seeing those drastic changes in
That
bird
is a great
populations?
question. I'm going to go with two things. One is kind of what we just talked about with the bird names, is just the amount of inclusivity and willingness for the birding committee. It wasn't there 10 years ago. I will tell you, there was a lot of folks who were like, why do we need to do this? It's just birding. We're all like, just come birding with me. And it's like, well, we do need to do this because some people don't feel comfortable coming birding with us, right? So that's a big thing that I'm very hopeful of, is so many people, and even through a tough time with the pandemic, do you know how many people got into birding right, and care about birds by watching them? So out of that terrible time came a really cool thing, is more people are watching birds, caring about them. That's great. The other one I always point to, every time I'm feeling that way, I go work with a group of kids. They aren't as jaded yet, and they are so hopeful and so excited to learn, and they have such great ideas. Half the time, they're teaching me again, right? Oh yeah, that's right, that's really cool. Oh my God, that's a great idea. Like, what do we do? So, does anybody watch baking shows? I cannot cook. I don't like to cook. I don't know why I love baking shows so much. I just want to eat everything they make, right? There's a Great British Baking Show, and then there's the junior version. It's the same idea in the birding world. If you watch those little kids, it's this wide array of humanity. And the minute one of them starts to struggle, all of these kids run over and start helping them bake. And I'm like, when does that happen? Why did that stop when I became an adult? What happened, right? I see so much hope when I work with kids, getting them into birding, conservation, whatever it is, just being out in nature. Even as simple as just not being afraid of being out in nature, which we have a lot of that, right? We see a lot of kids from, and I don't even consider Lincoln inner city, but they don't get out of their neighborhood much. So just getting used to being out in grass, out in bugs. No, you're not allergic to the grass. That's how it feels. It feels itchy when you walk through it, right? Just getting used to that. Once they get past that, the amount of things they think of and want to do, once they hear, they're like, wait, our state bird is, like, why aren't there many left? I've never seen this bird. They start coming up with projects and ideas. What can we do at school? What can we do? I'm like, okay, we're going to be fine. Like, these guys are all coming behind me. That's what gives me hope, right? But that's because I'm lucky enough as I get the chance to try anything I can to impact what they get to do and how they see the world. But
That's why
thank you.
parents and all of us need to be involved and share this information with anybody and any kids.
Absolutely.
Not to be afraid.
Absolutely. I am a huge fan. Many of you know Julie and John Thomas. They're members of Wachiska. She writes for one of the, I think it's 55 Plus magazine. She always is talking about the importance of grandparents and kids getting outdoors. So if you've got grandkids, take them outdoors, whether it's birds, bugs, whatever it is, connect them to the planet. They need it. The less we have green space and have that connection, they're not going to do well. But the minute they have that, I mean, you can see it. They study better, they're calmer, like it's so, so great for them. I mean, I'd love it if they were all bird nerds like me later, but it doesn't have to be birds. Something, though, about the outdoors, and it doesn't even have to be their career, right? That's one thing I always stress. That they care about it, though, in whatever career they go into later is what's most important. How are they going to spend their money, vote, all of those things, right? How can we get them to make sure that we are also an animal that needs to work with the birds and not separate from them?
Do your favorite bird call.
Ooh, last thing, favorite bird call. Oh, I got to do the meadowlarks, right? State bird and our cousin, the eastern, because it's the best way to tell them apart. Eastern meadowlark is in the spring of the year. Western is the one that's more noticeable, and it goes up and down.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I'm sure Jason will entertain questions if you want to stay around for a few minutes, or if you want to ask him about Footloose, he might tell you about being on Off-Broadway. So thank you all for coming again. Don't forget to get your dishes out front if you want to stay around and have another cookie. Have it. And happy holidays. Bertha says happy holidays to everybody. Thanks for coming.
gonna see her the 21st, I'll let her know. I'm so sorry. I know, I'm like, when he ever had, it's like, it's hard to reptiles or whatever. Yeah.